Welcome to the 11th video in the 50 Shades of Horror series. I'm your host, Roommate.
Today we'll discuss 1985's Phenomena. Here's where you can find this movie available for streaming. Stay until the end of the video to learn what the 12th movie will be. With my reviews so far, I've focused closely on what the movie actually is. I've refrained from talking about behind-the-scenes info, the audience's reaction to the movies, or anything else that you don't experience in the movies, because those things aren't actually part of the work themselves. Good art shouldn't need a primer, it should speak for itself. And there will always be new generations experiencing these works with a fresh perspective, with only the source material to go off of, so I want my commentary to be relevant to them. With Phenomena, however, I need to break this self-imposed rule. Dario Argento, the director of Phenomena, was an Italian director who peaked in the mid to late 1970s with some great mysterious horror films. After slasher films exploded in popularity in the 80s, Phenomena was an attempt to bring Argento more recognition in America. Argento co-wrote Phenomena with Franco Ferrini, who had worked with Jennifer Connelly a year earlier on the film Once Upon a Time in America. So they had an up-and-coming American actress, and Donald Pleasence, who played an American horror icon, Dr. Loomis from the Halloween franchise. So everything was in place to catapult Argento into mainstream American success.
But it was a disaster!
Released under the title Creepers with over 20 minutes cut, the film was panned by critics and ignored by audiences. It basically killed Argento's viability in the States, meaning that he never received a wide release in America again. This is a movie that suffers from expectations. If you come into this with a deep respect for Argento's work, you'll be disappointed, but probably apologetic. You'll focus on what you like, the good visuals, the score by Goblin, the ethereal mood, and say that the movie's okay, one of his lesser works, but still a worthy inclusion by any Argento fan. If you approach this as a horror movie fan, looking for something shocking, tense, with innovative kills, you're gonna have a bad time. It's too boring. But both of these are the wrong approach. You need to come into this movie thinking that it's a glorious failure. If this movie was created by some unknown director, it would have gained a reputation as a so bad it's good movie a long time ago. But as one of the lesser works of a beloved director, it never fell into that category. This movie needs to be remembered because it's so bad, in a way that's really fun when you lean into it. The checklist for entertainingly horrible movies is filled out superbly well. Item number 1, it needs to be weird.
Well, this movie is downright baffling.
How do you investigate a decapitated girl? By talking to an insect expert, of course. This scene where Dr. McGregor explains the insect cycle to determine the time of murder is insane.
Insects that eat cadavers are divided into 8 groups. Each group stays 15 days. 15 multiplied by 8.
By calculating the presence and the growth of the flies, you can pinpoint the exact date of death.
And if that wasn't weird enough, the star of the movie, Jennifer, has a psychic connection with insects?
Insects never hurt me. I love them.
You love them?
I love all insects.
Which brings us to quality number 2 of these terrifically terrible movies, the acting.
Be careful, it might sting you!
So many of these characters act over the top and unbelievable, making it really fun to laugh at. Even Donald Pleasence, who actually gives a very professional performance, has to deliver such bizarre, pretentious, pseudo-intellectual lines.
In ancient Greece, the butterfly symbolized the soul, the so-called psyche. What is this association between insects and the human soul? Is it because of the multifarious mystery of them both?
So his talent highlights how ridiculous the material is. And then you have number 3, random artistic choices that don't help the overall movie in any way. To break this last one down even further, let's talk about Inga. Why does this insect specialist have a chimp that he trained to help him with a laser?
It seems like way more trouble than it's worth.
I mean, sure, he's disabled, but wouldn't a chimp be more expensive and less helpful than a human assistant? But I love it. Inga is definitely the best character in the movie. But she isn't the only bizarre choice. The music is completely insane. What sort of music do you use if you have teenage girls exploring barren buildings while they fear for their lives? Heavy metal about sword fighting, apparently. It's even weirder because a lot of this movie has appropriate atmospheric music, but when these songs kick in, the clash of tones is pretty hilarious. Another hallmark of bad movies is strange pacing. There's a reason why you're able to cut out 20 minutes from this movie. So many scenes linger on way longer than they need to, but that adds to the charm of this movie as a crazy thing to laugh at. You have these long, drawn-out scenes to talk about the craziest of the movies with your buddies, and you won't miss any of the good stuff. But between these long pauses, there are plenty of highlights. The opening scene is great, where this girl girl is chased by the camera, overreacting the whole way. Then the breaking of the glass is all slow-mo, like it's supposed to be epic. But I can only think about how awkward it is for the actress while the sugar glass falls on her face.
Then, for a treat, she gets decapitated. Legendary.
There's this random bit where a narrator comes in for exactly one scene.
And so Jennifer arrives in Switzerland from the New World to pass her first memorable night at the Richard Wagner International School for Girls.
And it's not even necessary. It would have been really easy for anyone to convey that information. All of the girls in the boarding school are nuts. Her roommate is played by one of Argento's daughters, and she has a big crush on Jennifer's dad, who is apparently a movie star. It's bizarre to me that Jennifer wants to hang up a poster of her dad.
The school has its rules. I'm sorry, but I must confiscate this.
Hey, wait, you don't know who that is. That's Paul Corvino.
Sophie, that's enough.
That bitch stealing Paul Corvino.
Yeah, it's all right. I have a bunch of them in my bag. So tomorrow, put them all up all over the room. Paul Corvino is my father.
Like, I get being supportive, but really? You want a poster of your own dad up in your dorm? Then there's the scene with the girl running away that I showed you earlier with the Iron Maiden soundtrack. Because Jennifer's powers aren't consistent at all, she can also see murders in her dreams that have nothing to do with insects. It also makes her sleepwalk, so we have some Mr. Magoo style antics while she walks along the outside of the building. After the girl is impaled, this one section of the building crumbles for no reason, and then she falls into it. First, her shirt catches on some random piece of debris, and then the tree breaks her fall.
It's just so ludicrous.
After sleepwalking around helplessly, she gets a helping hand from Inga. She brings her to Dr. McGregor, starting their weird friendship. I like how he says this jacket is the perfect size for her, but it's as form-fitting as Missy Elliott's outfit from the Rain video. But their friendship is fascinating. It sets up some of the best lines in the movie, and definitely the weirdest plot in the movie. So if I were to tell you there's a movie where Jennifer Connelly uses a fly in a glass box to track down a killer, you'd say I was making that shit up. But I swear, that's what's happening in this movie.
We have to call on the services of the two greatest detectives ever known.
Who were they?
You and him.
Even with her powers and the bogus flies are the best detectives gimmick that this movie has, it still doesn't make sense. You've got a 14-year-old girl going into a house alone, and the only person who knows where she is has no way how to communicate with her. So what was she gonna do if she found the killer? Run away screaming? It's complete nonsense. But she isn't the one in the most danger. While she's there, someone sneaks into McGregor's house and locks Inga out. Poor Inga tries to break into the house as McGregor is attacked, but she can't make it in time and McGregor gets shanked. And his death is pretty hilarious. The way how he just stares up at the ceiling and looks so stiff, like he doesn't even slump in his chair. Then Inga gets ready for a tough life on the streets. Jennifer gets held hostage by one of the headmistresses from her school. She goes full Bond villain, explaining all of her reasons and methods to Jennifer. Sorry, lady, I know Blofeld, and you, madam, are no Blofeld. Once she leaves, Jennifer tries to break out in the most hilariously contrived way.
And the Iron Maiden song is so nice, they play it twice.
It's so goofy how she goes to such great efforts to get this phone while not leaving the other room, but then just decides to go in the room anyway when that plan fails. This is all just to call her dad's agent, who I guess she wants to save the day. Then she gets grabbed by a cop who's been held hostage. This scene is legitimately the creepiest in the movie. She falls into this pool with these decomposing bodies. It makes my skin crawl. It's too bad that this scene is so brief and only at the end of the movie. It would have gone a long way to make the movie scarier to have it show up throughout. After the woman shows back up, the captured cop strangles her in another hilariously contrived way, and in their scuffle, Jennifer escapes. So, the mysterious identity of the serial killer is a disfigured fish monster boy. He's the one that kills the lady in the beginning and the girl in Jennifer's dream, and his mom killed McGregor to help cover his tracks. So the movie waits until 10 minutes before the finale to reveal him, and he chases Jennifer out onto a boat. He throws a spear at her, missing, but puts a hole in the gas can. Then Jennifer uses her insect powers to attack him, ripping his face off, and he plunges into the water. Jennifer tries to get further away, but the boat explodes into flames and she has to jump into the water, where the boy is waiting for her. They struggle a bit, but then he swims up into the fire and finishes himself off. Then her dad's agent shows up, in time to do absolutely nothing. Well, not exactly nothing. He can get decapitated by the mom. She apparently won the struggle with the cop off camera. She goes after Jennifer, who has a much stronger neck because that sheet of metal isn't taking it off. But then Inga shows up to save the day, slicing up that lady's face. Then Jennifer and Inga hug it out before the credits roll.
Very wholesome.
I wanted this movie to be on the list to show how important expectations can be to how you enjoy something. This movie is a great time, but only if you expect it to be goofy trash. Now, I still think that it earns the 12th spot on this list because of the consistent macabre elements. There's so many maggots in this movie, ugh. The death pool in the end and the fight where the kid gets his face ripped off are pretty grisly, making this the most explicit movie so far, but you can't take this movie seriously in effects or concept, so it moves down the tier list considerably. But what do you think? Is this ranked properly for its scariness? Do you think I should have done one of Argento's classics instead? Let me know in the comments. This week's recommendation is for a horror-focused channel, Drumdums. If you want to learn more about horror movies, this is a channel that'll let you know about everything from the most well-known classics to the obscurities. His take on Phenomenon is even more positive than mine. For example, here's Lee talking about how the ending makes the whole movie worth it.
It's like they held all the payoff for the final act. So you need to know that. You know, if you're watching this thing and you're like, man, I wish the violence was kind of kicked up a little bit more, it's all there for you in the end, trust me. But overall, guys, I'm definitely giving Phenomena a purchase worthy. It's another very satisfying Argento movie.
So check out Drumdums Reviews Phenomena. The link's in the description. If you're not a big fan of So Bad It's Good movies, don't worry, because next week's is considered by many to be one of the greatest films of all time. It's 1975's Jaws, and here's where you can watch it. Subscribe and click the bell to know when that review is released. Tell any movie fans you know about this challenge, because Jaws is a movie that everyone should see.
See you next Saturday for that classic, and thanks so much for watching.